Hello friends! Welcome to a Battle of the Booktubers vlog. I will be starting The Unmarked Witch today. I'm very excited. I've never heard of this book before. I've never heard of this author either, so I love that this series is able to help me pick up books that I might not have picked up before or chosen for myself. Do I know anything about this book? No. Normally I go into books blind. However, with this experiment, I have been trying to look at synopsis and things like that, so I kind of have a little bit of expectations. What I know about this book is that it has to do with witches. It has to do with the fact that their magic, the spells that they use, creates marks on their bodies. And this main character, Raven, is special because she essentially has no marks. So she is not like other witches. She is different. Right? Very special. And that's really all I know. I know that she's different. I know that they're going to have to compete in these trials, very Hunger Games-esque, but we'll see how that compares, because just because like they have trials does not mean that it's immediately Hunger Games. It's just where I think most of our brains go. But I will try to keep an open mind and not compare them too heavily, but I do want to see, how high stakes these games are. No idea where the romance elements come in or anything like that, so we will see. Maybe there is no romance. I would assume there is. So I do believe that this booktuber, which is booktuber F, is Lotta, and they recommended to me Radiance by Grace Draven, which I haven't read, but it is on my TBR, and then also The Unmarked Witch, which is the one I'm going to get started with this morning. Would I have picked up these books? Technically, yes. So Radiance is on my TBR. It is a book that I have seen around, that I've been interested in. So the reason I think this is Lotta is because I know that Lotta really likes fantasy romance, and both of these are fantasy romance. It just kind of feels like a no-brainer. I don't feel like Nell reads fantasy romance, and I know Leandra definitely doesn't. It just felt like this was very on brand for her. I have to say that I'm excited to read both of these. I have not been reading a ton of fantasy romance in my opinion this year, so it feels nice to dive back into this world. It has been a long time coming. I'm gonna get to reading, and I'll check in with you guys soon. Hi friends. So I wanted to update you guys because I did finish The Unmarked Witch. I probably, if I wasn't doing this project, I probably would have DNF'd it. There was like a very interesting plot. Like, I think the premise of the book was great. The execution was just lacking for me. Essentially, the witches have to go into this trial because like their leader died, and so they have a chance to become the leader of this coven. And so they go into these trials with the king. We don't like the king. King is not good. And so they go into these trials, and literally her boyfriend, her family, everyone under the sun is like, please don't do this. Promise me you're not going to do this. Except for the issue is she had already promised somebody else, aka her grandma who died, that she would go, that she would like do her destiny and go into these trials and attempt to win for her. That was really intriguing to me. I love that she wasn't going to let anyone stop her from doing what she wanted to do. The trials themselves seemed interesting, and they started off okay. They just didn't make any sense to me. And also it was so interesting because like the way they made it seemed like you would die. Now, granted, there's a chance you can, but like the first few trials weren't even trials. It was just like people decided no, not you, and then you were sent home. So it's like, oh well, that's not dangerous. Now granted, after that things did get intense, but like I just feel like people, once you're in the trials, you shouldn't be able to just like go home. It should be like you're in the trials and then you fight to the death, or you win. But that's just me and my morbid brain, where I'm like, that actually has like tension, and it makes the stakes like even higher, if that makes sense. A lot of weird things happened with the king very early on. Even when she put her name into like the Goblet of Fire, that's not the Goblet of Fire. It's just where my brain went immediately. But when she entered the trials, very interesting things happened. Her relationship with the king is, I don't even know how to put a label on it, to be honest. Yeah, even with the twists and the plot turns and everything, it's not a series I will continue, which is unfortunate because, of course, it ends on a cliffhanger. It's probably a very generous 3 because of the fact that, like, I did like the foundation. The audiobook was relatively easy to listen to. I just could not connect with the characters of the story. Like, on paper, it just did not work. And I'm really bummed about it because, like, witches. I love witches. I love fantasy romance. It just did not hit for me. And I'm really, really bummed about it, to be honest. But the good news is we still have another book. I believe it's Radiance. I've wanted to read this book. I've seen the cover before. So I'm really, really hoping that this will kind of switch things up for this vlog. It will help be a saving grace. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm nervous. I definitely don't want this to be a depressing vlog of not enjoying my book. So here's hoping. Hi friends, I wanted to give you an update because not only did I start, but I also finished Radiance in one sitting. So sadly there's not going to be cute little updates of me reading it. I finished it literally in one nap time. It is short. It is a page turner. It is quick and easy to read, and I actually really enjoyed the story for the most part. However, so here's the deal. We essentially are following these two characters. One is a human and one is not. And they are forced into this marriage of convenience, this arranged marriage, because of the fact that they want to have peace among their people. They want to create this alliance. They're polar opposites, right? So like the one girl's a human, the one guy, like his people, they essentially, you know, are awake during the night. They actually shouldn't be out in the sunshine. The sunshine is bad for them. They don't like it, and it like makes them weak and all this stuff, versus, you know, most humans, we like to be awake during daytime. And I like to also be awake during nighttime, but you get my drift, right? That's very normal for us. What I really enjoyed is their banter together. They were a great pairing. They made a lot of jokes towards each other, but like, it was mutual jokes. Nobody was being mean to each other. They were equally being funny and playful with each other. I love that he had a strong hatred for potatoes, because honestly, potatoes are just one of the most versatile favorite foods in my life. So it was hilarious to hear him talk so much trash about potatoes. Here's the thing. If this book was just a romance book, right, there was no other elements, no other plot points, I think this would be a 5-star. However, because this story also has subplots about war, worlds of characters, right, like these are people we don't know, we don't have common knowledge of, there were certain things that I felt fell flat. For instance, I want to know more about his people and this world, and I also want to understand the war that's going on, because the war is just such an interesting like afterthought in my opinion. Like, there was not a lot of high stakes in this book. They talked about the war and the things that were coming, because essentially there are some people who do not want this alliance between the humans and between these individuals. They don't want this to happen. And so there are definitely moments where they are trying to kill her or take him. Like there's tension in that regard, but like it doesn't last long. It's all quickly like fixed and solved. And I just feel like with everything happening in the background, those things are very important, but we tend to glaze over them because we're so focused on the romance. And don't get me wrong, I wanted these characters to be together. I rooted for them. I appreciated it. I loved how much he like protected her, right? It was such a fun time. It's just I could not overlook the fact that there were parts missing that would have made this story so much more developed, in my opinion. So I think it's a 3.5 star, which would be rounded up to 4. So that's what I'm going to go with, because again, I did have a great time. I do feel like this is a series I will continue. I want to see how the story progresses, what kind of character development we might get in the next few books and things like that. I need answers. I want to know. And I'm so invested in this relationship. So it was still a very good pick. And it was a great way to end this vlog, because you guys know how I felt about The Unmarked Witch. So it's nice to have this be kind of like a great way to close out, because I feel like this was a great recommendation. I'm very curious to read more from this author. So all in all, I had a really fun time with this booktuber. I'm definitely interested in having more of their recommendations. I want to try different fantasy romances that I might not necessarily pick up on my own. So I will definitely be turning to whoever this is and asking them for a few more recommendations. I had a very fun time with these recommendations. I can't complain. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.